Hello. Moving on to our fourth team in the top five in the West, we have the Los Angeles Clippers currently at 21-17, 6-4 in their last 10. They just dropped the game to Indiana, a big game to Indiana. Very entertaining game to Indiana with Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner. Paul George had 45. Check out the highlights on that. That was a really good game between those two. But the Los Angeles Clippers, I've talked about the Los Angeles Clippers in old videos in terms of the battle for LA, the rivalry that we were supposed to get. The Clippers have somehow been able to stay afloat over that time. The Lakers have been a down period the past couple of seasons, so we had never gotten that. But we're now seeing some type of consistency, maybe some type of continuity between the Clippers there. With Kawhi and Paul George back playing together in games, and the Clippers are very successful when they play together in games. Seeing their continued gelling and morphing of this team, which we hope to get because the Clippers have been one of the trick or treat teams in the league. We've been waiting for them to get healthy, stay afloat, keep things together because they have this talent, and it seems like they catch lightning in the bottle. They could be in the conference finals or the finals, and that's where people have predicted them to get. This is my finals pick out the West. I think that they can make the finals on the backs of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and what they're trying to build here. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Here, their offense is putrid, 109.2 points per game, 29th in the league. Obviously, with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard missing significant time, that's going to be strenuous on their offensive game. Norman Powell is their third leading scorer. So to put him and thrust him in that role with Reggie Jackson and John Wall and Nick Batum and Luke Kennard and Marcus Morris, it's tough to generate any offense. I'm surprised how good this team is. That speaks to Tyronn Lue and how he's coaching and how he's doing, how he's putting together this team to be consistent, even without Paul George at a time, without Kawhi Leonard at a time, without both at a time. And especially when Kawhi Leonard's not playing back-to-backs. I believe he recently played a back-to-back. But to put together any consistency, especially on the defensive end, to that tune of that defense to be one of the top five in the league, that's insane. I don't know how Tyronn Lue is doing it, but he's able to piece together this team and be able to keep them close and it speaks to his legend and why the Clippers went after him. Why he had success in Cleveland, especially with LeBron James and stuff like that. But we saw outside of that why he was a good hire for the Clippers, because he's able to tinker and figure out ways to win games that many other people wouldn't figure out how to do. And that's not something that I don't think that's something that you can learn on the fly. I think that's something that you either have or you don't. And Tyronn Lue has been able to show that he can win games and figure out ways, especially a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when he went to the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi Leonard. With Paul George and Reggie Jackson able to navigate to get to the Western Conference Finals and then eventually just falling short to the Suns. But that speaks to how impactful Tyronn Lue has been to this franchise so far the past couple of seasons, especially trying to figure out how to win games without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That speaks volumes to him. But let's get into the statistics. Paul George with 23.7 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game. He is one of the smoothest players in the game, one of my favorite players, especially since Indiana. Had that leg injury, as people know, with Team USA, and has been able to battle his way back, had some first-round exits, playoff P, finally looking like he got that out the way there in terms of when he got to the Western Conference Finals and putting together some performances where he can get that monkey off his back and actually live up to that playoff P moniker that he's trying to put on. Hopefully he can continue to do that this season. But he's one of the best players in the game. I think one of the best two-way players. He's just Zach Lowe calls him a boss. He's just a great player, and I think people, because of his shortcomings in the playoffs, kind of minimize what he does and look at him as a player that's just outside of this top tier players. But I believe he can play on that level. He's one of the best scorers in the league. Very efficient. Can pass, play, make, and defend. So when he's able to do that and be confident in that nature, he's one of the best in the game, and I love his game. Moving on to Kawhi Leonard, who's only played, around 16 games, I believe, this season? Yes. And he's around 16.9 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Of course, we're trying to see what Kawhi Leonard, he has been in and out of lineups for generally his career over the past 5 years. So to see him try to get back and hopefully be able to stay consistent and be able to play well into June, well into the playoffs, well into the late in the season, and put together that run that we've seen in Toronto, that consistency that we saw in San Antonio. We're hoping to see that at some point from this guy who has been battling injuries and hasn't been able to stay on the floor. He's so important to the game of the basketball and where this era is right now, because he's one of those guys that can change the game, obviously, on both ends of the floor and just be that dynamic, especially for the Los Angeles Clippers franchise that's looking to turn things around, looking to enter a new building soon. So Kawhi Leonard is a part of that. That's why all this is happening. That's why they're trying to get everything going. And to see him battle injuries the past couple of seasons, we're hoping that he can at least get to 60 games, 65 games. That will be a treat if he can do that. We're just seeing what Kawhi Leonard is, 2 finals MVP, 2-time champion. What else is there to say about this guy is that we just need him to stay healthy. Moving on to Norman Powell, who I've had as 6th man of the year. He's been struggling to start the season, but has really been coming along of late at 15.5 points per game. This guy just knows how to score. He gets to the bucket. He gets to his buckets. He's not hesitant. He knows how to score in this game of basketball. And very vital to this team, especially with Luke Kennard having a down year, Terrence Mann having a down year, and the Clippers trying to find some type of consistency. Norman Powell has been able to step up. As we look to the bench, they do it by committee. Marcus Morris with 13.4 points per game. A tough player in the league, be able to knock down shots and ready to go, and a guy that you want in playoff matchups when he can get going and when he can score like that. Reggie Jackson has been up and down this season, but we've seen him step up and been able to be relied on in big moments, and the Clippers are hoping that he can do that again. John Wall, who has bounced around to Houston and then coming to the Clippers, seeing if he can find any type of a game that was related to Washington, his time in Washington, and seeing how that plays out. Hoping to see that. Hopefully he just gets some consistency, gets his legs back. He's able to do it in spurts. We've seen a little bit of that, of his speed and able to get to the basket, able to drive and kick and find guys at times. So we just need to see that consistency. Of course, they're going to manage, especially manage his back-to-backs, his minutes and stuff like that, just to make sure he stays healthy. But he could be an X factor, hopefully, come playoff time. Hopefully, maybe he's getting more healthy and more comfortable, and see if he can be relied upon next to Reggie Jackson in that backcourt. Moving on to Ivan Zubac, who can score inside and be a big man, protect the paint, rebounds, very solid as a player in the league. Starting center in the league, I thought initially that there would have been an upgrade at center. I thought this could have been a potential Miles Turner landing spot, because I thought that would have took the Clippers to the next level. But he's been serviceable. He's been good for them, and we'll see if he can continue to do that. Looking at this team, offensive opponent field goal percentage is 3rd in the league, and opponent's 3-point shooting is 3rd in the league at 33%, 45% from the field. This team knows how to guard, get stops, makes team take tough shots, force teams into bad situations, and that's been their calling card, and that's how they've been able to stay afloat. They're relying on their defense, relying on their tough defense to contest shots and make things difficult for the opposition. I think one thing the Clippers needed, especially the past couple of seasons, is a point guard who I thought that could make things a little bit easier for other guys on their team that are not Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. A point guard that can facilitate and find open guys and be able to knock down shots. Malcolm Brogdon comes to mind. I thought a couple of years they should have went after Lonzo Ball when he was available via free agency. Unfortunately, with his knee injuries, it looks like they dodged a bullet there with that. Get well soon, Lonzo. But in terms of what this team needs, I thought Malcolm Brogdon could have been an option for this team in terms of what they need, in terms of a guy that can play make, be able to catch and shoot off of Kawhi Leonard getting doubled, Paul George getting doubled, fighting through difficult defenses, find a guy that can knock down shots. I thought those guys would have been an option. So I think that's something that they can still look for, try to find some relevance of that. And we'll see how that goes into the second quarter of the season. But the Clippers are playing great so far, despite all the injuries, and staying afloat and trying to find ways to win, continuing that heading into the All-Star break. hopefully they continue with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being healthy. We'll see if guys like Luke Kennard and Terrence Mann can pick it up and see what the Clippers hold in the second quarter of the season heading into the All-Star break.